Hello everyone, how to invest for retirement. As you notice, this video I'm wearing a mask and I'm in a bedroom because I'm isolated right now, but I still wanted to get a video out. I didn't do one last week, primarily because my wife was ill, then my in-laws got ill, and then of course I got ill. But I promise you today's video will not be ill, and it will be up to par and up to my standards, and how you can learn, or at least how you can approach your investment strategy into retirement, which is actually more of a timing strategy than an investment strategy. So let's get into that without any further ado, how to invest for retirement. So only the first thing that you need to look at when you're looking into retirement is something called time horizon. And basically what that means is how much time you have for this investment to play out. As you can see here, this S&P 500, it has a pretty good return rate as long as you're in for at least 10 years. If you're in for more, you're almost guaranteed at least some positive return. Now, that is based on historical, so when I say guaranteed, I just mean based on the data we've seen in the past. This is kind of what you are likely, or at least what people in the financial world will tell you is likely, even though past performance doesn't indicate future results or future performance. Pretty much, if the past is anything to kind of look at, that's the deal. Time matters. Secondly, you don't really want to time the market. There's that awesome saying, it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. So keep that in mind as well. Now, typically when you talk about time horizons, anything over like a 10-year mark is kind of a set it and forget it. So if you're 20, 30, 40, even 50, put it in the market. Don't look at it every day unless you want to have heart murmurs or heart attacks or strokes, and just let it play out. But once you hit that 10-year mark, that's when you're going to start wanting to tweak your strategy. All right, so we got the time portion out of the way. The next portion you're going to want to look at is your risk tolerance. Now, basically what that means, and I really don't like how this is like step 2. I mean, it doesn't really matter where in the step process it is, but for risk tolerance, it basically says how much money could you withstand losing. That's hard to say because most people can't withstand losing anything. I mean, I ran the risk tolerance survey on my mom, and we ended up, pretty much putting into US Treasury debt, which pays like less than 2%. So I'm not saying that that's the best for everyone. That was the best for her risk tolerance. But for most people, if your risk tolerance is very low, that means you don't want to invest in risky stuff. And risky is based on the S&P 500 typically. There's this metric called beta. Beta of 1 is the overall market risk. Beta of 1 is pretty much the S&P 500. Anything that has more risk, that number goes up. Anything with less risk, and that number goes down. A good way to look at risk is in terms of volatility. That means how much of this you will see. Normally, if you look at a S&P 500 chart, over the years, it kind of spreads itself up, going in an upward momentum or an upward kind of trend. But again, it's not guaranteed because this is a past chart, and past performance does not indicate future performance. So again, take it with a grain of salt. Risk tolerance is your number 2 thing. And that's pretty much, if you have time in the market from number 1, more than 10 years, put it in something that you can handle. I got a list of stuff down there, not sponsored, not telling you what to do, but those things kind of mimic the market. So if you're looking for market type returns, those are the funds or ETFs you can look at. Number 3, and again, this can be switched for number 2, and when you're thinking about it, is risk aptitude. Now, risk aptitude is something you're going to kind of have to think about in terms of how much money do I have in total? In my retirement fund, how much of this money may I ever need? Give you an example. If you have extraneous medical costs, and those medical costs eat up your emergency fund and eat through your credit cards, and you're like, you know what, paying 19 or 29% APR is ridiculous. I'm just going to do what everyone says not to do and take out money from my retirement. Now, if you did that, that means number 1, your time horizon would disappear because no longer do we have this until I'm 65 or 70, we have now. Also, your risk tolerance goes out the door, because what happens if, like now, if you're watching this in January 2022, the market's down 10-20%. Your investment is also down 10-20% most likely if you are invested in a way that capitalizes on the entire growth of the US economy or some economy in general. So risk aptitude is something that is very kind of difficult to put into so many words, but I like to look at it again in a way that it is the amount of risk you can take on your whole assets, all the money you have, all the money coming in, and the likeliness of you needing to use your retirement funds for something other than retirement, something like for an immediate need. Now, there's lots of ways you can offset this by buying extra insurance policies, or by having an extra large emergency fund, or by having on an exceedingly large income or an exceedingly large amount of money just stored away in the bank account. But that is the other thing you have to think about. That's risk aptitude or aptitude. Number 4, and this is the last thing, and also probably the hardest thing to target, is the need. So I have videos about the 4% rule, how much do you need to retire, all this information, but none of that really matters. What matters is how much you actually need. And there's a way to calculate that. I have a video link in the description down below on how to retire, the 7 steps basically on how you can calculate how much you're going to need. But that is kind of like the last part. You kind of want to be in target to what you kind of want. And the need is going to really depend on how long you think you're going to go through retirement, how much your annual living expenses are going to be, and how much kind of a cushion do you already have built. For example, again, like that insurance on the risk aptitude part. If you have really great medical, you got, really good long-term care insurance where if anything happened to you, or you need live-in assistance, or you need to go live in a facility, that's all taken care of and not coming out of your retirement, then, it's a different story. Because if not, you're going to have to find some way of funding that with that retirement and the need portion. So that basically tells you kind of how you can start this conversation on saving for retirement. Now, my next video is going to go over kind of the investing part, because like I said in the beginning of the video, retirement planning and retirement investing is really more about time and about risk, and kind of how those finances with your risk aptitude and everything kind of mesh together. So with that said, stay tuned for the next video where we get into the fun stuff about how to invest in the stock market for your retirement.